CL 650 presents It's Your Money, an up-close and personal look at your finances. Here's your host, Fred Snyder.
Up in the morning and out to school.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, we are back once again. Hope we can drill the message home, because the message is loud and clear. You're probably going to fail financially. And what do I mean by succeeding financially? Well, succeeding financially is all about achieving one's financial goals. We talk about goals, more goals. We talk about it all the time. But it's true. If you take 100 people who started equal today at the age of 25, by the time they end up at 65, one is wealthy or rich, 4 are well-to-do, 5 are still working, 36 are dead, there's 54 left, and they're dead broke, dependent on family and state. And the main reason is they didn't have financial goals. They didn't know how to set financial goals. They didn't know how to motivate themselves. They thought they didn't have any money. Yet they all earned a small fortune during their working career. They just didn't keep it. If you don't believe me, ask yourself these questions. How long have I worked? How much money have I made so far during my working life? And how much of that do I have left today? And the key question is, are you satisfied with the answers? And you are probably not. And as a financial advisor for many, many years, I find that people fail because they do not have a written financial plan. I call it lack of a plan. So are you suffering from lack of a plan? You want to get a plan? I offer a complimentary plan, no cost, no obligation, and I don't get too many people that take me up on it. I get a few, but not too many. I have the opportunity, the good graces, to talk to 4 or 5 people almost every day. So I see 4 or 5 profiles of people, financial profiles of people. I see them all the time, and they all have an awful lot of things in common. They're spending more than they earn. They don't have financial goals. They don't have a financial plan. They don't have a financial advisor. They are a wandering generality rather than being a meaningful specific. So ask yourself, what are my goals? And why don't I have any? What are my goals and why don't I have any? How can you score if there's no goal? Think about that. You know, you're a shooter. You got a target. There's a target. That's a goal. You're playing hockey. There's nets. That's a goal. Basketball, there's nets. Football, there's the what do you call them? The end zone pipes or whatever. The ones you kick that football through, okay? Think about what I'm saying, because it is logical. It makes an awful lot of sense. And I want to talk to you about this. I want you to make a phone call. Let's discuss it. Why do you think people don't have financial goals? Why don't they get themselves a written financial plan? Why does this happen? Think about that. Let it sink in for a minute. If you just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also a registered financial planner, and I represent Scotia Wealth Management. That's a new name. Rather than Scotia McLeod, it's now Scotia Wealth Management, because wealth management more aptly describes what we do. We just don't sell investments. We manage your wealth, if you have any. And if you don't have any, we help you get it. Now, if you're out there right now and you're listening to this show, many of you do not have a financial plan. I know that. Some of you do. And a lot of the people who have a financial plan don't understand it. And maybe you have a financial plan, but you're just not sure that that financial plan is the right plan for you. All that means is time to make a phone call. So I suggest you get yourself a pad, a pencil, piece of paper, take some notes, and pretend you're at school. Because I'm here to teach you what you need to know, to make better financial decisions. We're going to do a case study a little later. And this is an actual case study. Names have been removed to protect the innocent. But it will be a case study. And we'll be able to compare. And there's software out there that can really help advisors and you, the public, choose the right investment portfolio. But you have to know how to use it. and you have to take the time to use it. So again, ask yourself the question, do I need a financial plan? If I have one right now, do I need it updated? Or simply, do I need it explained? And let's have a conversation about that and much more. The numbers to call, write them down, 604-280-0650. 604-280-0650. Give us a call. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Repeat it once again, 877-280-0650. Now, if you're out there and you have a computer handy, you can log on, www.CIL650.com. And you can see what we look like. You can get all the phone numbers. You can get the web pages and the email addresses and all that, and much, much more. Now, if you're shy or reluctant to talk on the air, you just want to cut to the chase, you want to make an appointment to get yourself a financial plan, reserve a seat at our next workshop, get our giveaway for the day, which will be the Napoleon Hill workbook. I think it's so important. If you haven't read the book, Think and Grow Rich, you should. If you don't have the workbook that comes along with it, I think you should get one. And we'll provide it to you at absolutely no cost. Now, if we've already done that, we'll give you a will kit. Get up to date on your will. Again, it just takes a phone call. That's your investment, time. So walk over to the phone and dial the numbers, 604-280-0650, or Frida down at the office at 604-737-3512. Long distance for the office is 1-800-661-1495. I know there's people out there driving, listening to the show right now. That's why we repeat the numbers a lot, because you can't write them down when you're driving, and please don't try, okay? Because you might end up in the ditch. And you might end up in the ditch financially if you don't get yourself a financial plan. It's the same thing. Certified financial planner Fred Snyder talking to you about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. On this show, we talk about government debt. We talked about the election, and we figured that the liberals were going to give the conservatives a tough time, and they did better than that. They won. We've talked about the implications of the election, what we can expect in the future, reduction in the TFSA, bigger deficits, more government debt, that kind of thing. We talked about ways to mitigate taxes, how to reduce the income tax that you pay. Just think about that for a minute. Think about how much of your money goes to the tax man. Here's a good example. Let's just suppose that you had $1, just $1, and you're playing blackjack. So you put $1 down. You win. You let your money ride. So you win again. If you can win 20 times in a row, you're probably not going to, but if you could, you'd have over $1 million out of $1. Every time you win, you double your money. Double it 20 times, you got over $1 million. You don't believe me? Do the math. Now, if you pay only 26% tax on the winnings as you earn it, you'll end up with about $20,000 instead of $1 million. That's the impact of taxes, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there. It's huge. Okay? I believe the number, if you're in a 50% tax bracket, so you're losing half your profits to the taxman as you earn them, I think it's $12,000 instead of $1 million. Or think about this. If you could get a return of 10% that was fully taxable on your money, and believe me, you can't. I don't know anywhere that you can. You get 10%. Taxman gets 5% of that. Half. So you're left with 5%. Inflation takes 3, your net return is 2. So you grossed 10 and you netted 2. That's why we say on this show all the time, it's not about how much money you make that counts, it's about how much you keep. Keep is the key word. And that's why you need a financial plan, because the money will slip through your fingers if you don't. So you start out with a budget. We talked about that last week and many other weeks. You got to figure out, first of all, how much do you spend to live? How much does the roof over your head cost, or shelter, whatever you want to call it? Okay? How much do you spend a month on groceries? Gasoline for your car, life insurance, critical illness insurance, car insurance, property insurance. How much do you spend on all these things, and how much should you be spending, and where can you find out the answer to that? The answer is Stats Canada. Google it. You can find out what you should be spending and then compare that to what you already spend. How much you spend on holidays? How do you calculate that? Take 2 cruises a year, that's probably $15,000 a year. That's over $1,000 a month. It's not tax deductible, so you got to earn $2,000, pay $1,000 of tax to have $1,000 left to pay for the vacation. Is there some way to make that vacation tax deductible? Maybe. Become a travel agent. So you got to go visit these countries just to see what they're like. You might have an argument with CRA about that one, but it's worth a try. You got to mitigate your taxes. It's part of the equation. And again, it's not about how much money you make that counts. It's about how much you keep. You have to be proactive, not reactive. Heard something on the radio today. The best way to predict the future is to create it. A financial plan will create your financial future. What kind of a house do you want to live in? You want a second home? What kind of a car do you want to drive? Do you want to have a beautiful yacht tied up at your back door? What are some of the material things that you want out of life? And then remember that having is the result of being. You must become before you can legitimately have. Hence, lots of people who win the lotteries, many, many times they win a lottery and they're broke in a year. I know a guy who went bankrupt, and the day he went bankrupt, he won the lottery for $1 million. A year later, he was broke again. Spent it all. See, you gotta become. And how do you become? Well, one of the ways to become is to listen to this show and remember that life is about continuing education. You got to educate yourself from a financial point of view. Am I making sense? If I am, make a phone call and tell me. Let's discuss it. Okay? How many times do I have to say make a phone call? Let's discuss it. Let's talk. That's what this show is all. This is a talk show. It's a live talk show. I get up early this morning, prepared for this show to come out here, a long drive out here, just so I can talk to you. And if you don't talk to me, I'm insulted. Get on the phone and give me a call, okay? Let's talk. 604-280-0650. Long distance, 877-280-0650. Log on, www.cil650.com. And for the shy people or the people that want to get right down to the core of things and make an appointment and come on in and see me, 604-737-3512, and speak to Frida. Now again, the phone call will get you that fabulous Napoleon Hill workbook or a will kit, and lots of people listening to the show right now do not have an up-to-date will. If your will has not been updated since Wes's, that tax act was passed, that's about 1.5 years ago, it probably needs an update. If you don't have an enduring power of attorney, you probably need your will updated. If you don't have a representation agreement, you probably need your will updated. So again, all the ways to mitigate taxes, we got a little bit off track there. How do you measure investment risk? So I ask you this question. I have people, and you'll see it in some of the case studies that we do, I have people that come in to see me, and they have a portfolio that's highly risky, which means a high standard deviation, which means it fluctuates like crazy, which means it's volatile. And I asked them, I said, what's your tolerance for risk? And they say low. Well, then how come you have a volatile portfolio? I didn't know it was. So, ladies and gentlemen, how do you measure risk? How do you know how much risk your portfolio has unless you get a second opinion? Now, if you have a high volatile portfolio with a financial advisor and you phone him and say, well, my tolerance for risk is low, what's the risk in my portfolio? What's he going to say? It's high? Unlikely. He's going to try to defend whatever he did in the first place. So you got to get a second opinion. Okay? You got to get a second opinion. I had a fellow in my office not very long ago. He just retired. Got a substantial portfolio. His whole portfolio was made up of about 40 stocks. Mostly energy. And they were all negative for the year. Every single one was down. And he said, what's the risk in my portfolio? I said, looks to me like it's pretty high. He didn't know that. His tolerance for risk was low, and it should be low because he just retired. So you can afford risk when you're young, and as your timeline gets shorter, you got to diminish the risk. And Peter Drucker once said, if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. And we are talking right now, ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about measuring your portfolio. So one of the yardsticks to measure it is called risk. So what happens is you can take a look at your portfolio, and there's mathematical ways to calculate the expected return. Every portfolio that exists should have a benchmark to compare it to. So if your portfolio is 1, if the beta on your portfolio is 1, then it will perform almost exactly like the benchmark. And if it performs exactly like the benchmark, that's pretty good. If the beta is 1.2, it performs 20% better than the benchmark. If the beta is 0.8, it performs 20% less than the benchmark based on using beta, okay? So that's just one way to measure your portfolio. So what is the beta on your portfolio? You can't answer that question? It's time to make a phone call, okay? Because that's how you measure it. Let's talk to Ron from White Rock. Ron, welcome to the program.
Hey, good morning. How are you doing, Fred?
Pretty good, Ron. How about you?
Not too bad. I can't complain.
Good stuff.
My portfolio's doing very well. I'm with your son, Steve.
Yeah, I recognize your voice.
And I can't complain one little bit because I've got more money than I need.
Well, there you go. Okay.
It's a matter of just keep investing whatever you can and keep your eye on it, you know.
And I hired and trained him, so I'll take some credit for that.
You bet. You bet. Yeah, why not?
So,
you got to give credit where credit is due.
Bottom line, Ron, what advice would you give our listeners?
I think keep listening to your program and phone in, and come to your meetings. I think and keep looking at the future because it's not going to get better. It's going to get worse, and it's going to get more expensive.
It has to.
Keep on investing, whatever you can. If it's $1, $2, $5, keep on investing.
What do you think is going to happen with ISIS?
And well, ISIS, that's a really tough question because you don't know what to do, you know.
Like Trump says he's going to bum their asses off.
Yeah, they should, yeah. But what are you going to, you know, you can't complain against the border guys. They come there with their beards and their things on their head, and they say, they're being discriminated against. Yeah, well, you wonder why. You know, there's no wonder why. But, yeah, it's terrible. It seems like they're the ones that are giving the trouble all the time, you know. They don't want to let anybody live in peace. They think they're the only ones that should be on this earth. It's too bad. But you're doing a great job, Fred, and keep it up. And how's your health? Okay, I guess.
Oh, my health is terrific.
Excellent. That's what you want to hear. Yeah. So I won't keep you.
I try to stay enthusiastic. I try to keep busy.
Yeah.
I think that's the secret to the whole thing. The secret to the whole thing is to like to do what you do, and I like to do what I do.
Right. And you're catching lots of fish, right?
And I catch lots of fish. I eat lots of fish, too.
Yeah.
Because that's good for you.
Good for you. Good brain power.
Okay, Ron.
You have a great day.
Can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Okay.
You take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay, Ron from White Rock. That line is now open. So if you just tuned in, I'm certified financial planner. Fred Snyder, also registered financial planner representing Scotia McLeod. We're taking your calls. I shouldn't say Scotia McLeod anymore. That was a slip. It's really Scotia Wealth Management. Okay, that's the name change. And that's more indicative of what we do. We are wealth managers. Wealth management is financial planning. That's another word for it. So all of a sudden, instead of saying we're investment managers, instead of saying that we sell stocks and securities, no, we manage wealth. So if you have a lot of wealth, you probably need a manager. If you don't have any, you probably need somebody to help you create it in the first place. So it's time to get on board, and the way to get on board is called the telephone. It's called the telephone if you didn't hear me the first time, okay? It's 604-280-0650. That's the number to call. 280-0650. 604 in front of it. If you're long distance, it's 1-877-280-0650. all you got to do is remember the 877. So if you're out there, you're driving around, we'll give the numbers out frequently. If you can just remember Frida's number, if you want to talk to me, you call Frida. Frida can give you the number just in case you're driving. So the only number now you got to remember is 604-737-3512. So you can call Frida down at the office right now. Make an appointment. Get a written financial plan. Get a financial tune-up. So you already have a portfolio. You want to be sure that the portfolio is the right portfolio for you. You want to be sure that it's not too risky. You want to be sure that the expected rate of return is sufficient to help you achieve your financial objectives. Remember, a 2% greater return over time makes a huge difference in how much money you end up with. So you got to be more aggressive about rates of return. You got to pay more attention to the rate of return that you're getting, and you have to frequently optimize and balance your portfolio. So again, we started talking about how you measure investment risk. You got another ratio in there. It's called R squared. So if your R squared, maximum is 100. If R squared is under 70, you would ignore beta. I talked about beta a minute ago. But if the R squared is less than 100, you don't pay any attention to beta. So you got to look at other ways to measure. There's a ratio called the Sortino ratio, which determines or helps you determine whether the rate of return that you're getting on your portfolio is caused by the portfolio manager taking excessive risk and you're just lucky or not. That's what the Sortino ratio does. Then you have alpha. Alpha is how much return the manager added over and above the benchmark or the expected rate of return. So these are all ways to measure your portfolio. I don't expect anybody to try to remember them or even learn from them. Just understand that there are ways to measure what you have. You go to the doctor once a year, you should if you don't, to get a medical checkup. Well, maybe you ought to go to your financial advisor at least once a year to get a financial checkup on your financial plan. If you're not doing that, you need to. It's important. It's part of the process. So you got to get this burning desire to make sure that the portfolio you have is going to do the job. And the best way to make sure is to get a second opinion. 604-280-0650. 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Frida down at the office, 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. Remind you, if you just tuned in, we're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. So maybe you have this portfolio. Maybe you have 10 mutual funds in it. Maybe you have 50 stocks. Maybe you have a combination of both. Maybe you have your money invested with 5 or 6 different financial advisors, 2 or 3 banks, a number of investment houses. So maybe you're very confused and the future is not very clear because you have a disorganized situation and you want to get it organized. You want to sit down and make some sense out of it. You can put investments that you have into computer programs and ask the program to tell you, how does this investment program work? Is this program a good program to analyze my situation? Is it going to give me a document that I can analyze? It's going to give me all these ratios that we talked about earlier? Will it turn the numbers into a graph so it becomes a picture? And remember, a picture is worth 1,000 words. So if I punch your portfolio in and say, this is the existing portfolio and this is the one I would recommend, and you can compare them side by side, and you look down the road and you see that by investing in the recommended portfolio, your rate of return in terms of dollars is 25 or 30 or 40% greater than it was with the other one, with less risk. How can I invest my money with less risk and get a better return? Becomes the question. So you're out there, and we talk. I mean, there's lots of stuff to talk about. We have climate change. That's a problem. We have ISIS. We have the world instability. We got Putin. We have what's his name in Korea? Kim Jong-un. We got a lot of stuff to think about. There's a lot of stuff going on. It's unbelievable. And all of a sudden we're fighting an enemy that's amongst us. We can't see them, and they're not afraid to die. It's unbelievable. So what do? I don't think there's any simple answers. But I certainly think that we have to become more conscious, and we have to think more about our futures. The future of our children, our grandchildren, the future of the country, and everything else. What's going to happen down the road? How is climate change going to affect me? What would happen if climate change was so severe that we had no food and we had a famine? And don't think for a minute these things aren't possible. They've happened historically, frequently. Okay? There's 6.5 billion people on this planet right now, which is double what it was 20 years ago. And over half the people on this planet are in absolute poverty. Absolute poverty. And that's not because they don't shop for the best prices and all that kind of stuff. They don't make any money to begin with. So when ISIS or somebody like that comes along and says, well, join us and we'll give you $20,000 a year, that sounds pretty good. Okay? That's what's going on right now. And how do we change all that? I think we have to change the way we think, and I've said it many, many times in the past. We have to learn to pick our politicians wisely. Okay? Because that can have a huge impact on our futures. Let's talk to Helen from Richmond. Helen, welcome to the program.
Hi, Fred. Good morning.
Good morning, Helen. How you doing?
I'm good. And you? Are you good?
Am I good?
Yeah.
I think I'm good. What do you mean?
I just phoned to say thanks so much for talking to my friend and myself about our portfolios. I find it really helpful, and as you know, I listen to the show all the time.
Hi. I know. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate your support.
Well, you're doing a good job there. I listened to the radio, to the real estate show yesterday morning, and I always listen to the law show. They said in Phoenix you can buy a house for $300,000, and it was 70 degrees. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty good. Except you could only stay there for 6 months.
Well, that's. I don't know if we can change that law, but that would be nice if we could.
Yeah, well, I thought the price is right and the weather's good.
But if you got the money, and you got lots of it, what's wrong with that? You can only stay there 6. I mean, my brother lives in Ottawa for 6 months and lives in Florida for the other 6 months.
Okay, Florida's good too.
And he's terribly happy.
Yeah. Well, it just depends where you're at, and my sister goes south all the time, but now they've kind of cut back. They motorhome and that.
Well, I've said it many times, Helen. You have to sit back, put your feet up. You got to take a pad of paper, and you got to start writing things down. You have to say to yourself, what is it that I really want out of life?
Yeah.
What is it? How can I make what I want tangible? I can write down my hopes, my plans, my dreams, and my ambitions. Well, my hope is I want to be president of Scotia Wealth Management. That's a hope.
Good luck.
Yeah, good luck. The dreams. I'd like to have. I go by it every day when I used to keep my boat out at Fisherman's Cove. There's an island right at the mouth of Fisherman's Cove, big island. It's got a house that occupies the whole island. It must be 40 or 50,000 square feet. It's huge. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. Dock at the front door and so on. There are 2 yachts that got to be 40, 45 feet long, tied up, and they're brand new, at the back door.
Well,
now that's what I want. I'm probably not going to get it because there's a lot of money tied up there. And even if somebody gave you all that property, you'd need a fortune to maintain it.
Yeah, and your health is more important than
Sure.
your family, and
So you have to sit down and you have to say, okay, this is what I'd like, but this is what I'll settle for.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I was going to tell you, too, on the statements that we get, I'm always, keeping an eye on things. And part of the reason that the people don't know where they're at is because the statements don't say what the interest rates is on the ones I get. So I just phone in and say.
Well, the ones that we have do.
Good.
And secondly, if you're out there, you get a second opinion in writing.
Yeah.
We give you a printout, and on that printout it shows the rate of return, number one. And number two, it shows you the graphical illustration. Mm-hmm. It graphs over 5 or 10 or 15 years, whatever we prefer. It will show you a graph of how your portfolio has performed. And in addition to that, if I'm proposing a change, it will show you what the changed portfolio, how it performed. Mm-hmm. So that's 2 rates of return, one that you actually had and one that you can expect if you change things.
Yeah.
You see, if you start out with a portfolio, I'm oversimplifying when I say this, but if you start out with a portfolio that is designed to be 50% fixed income and 50% equities, if the equity markets perform extremely well, it won't stay at 50-50. It will become 60-40. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you got to rebalance. So how frequently and when should you rebalance? I say if the asset allocation goes off by 10%, it's time to rebalance. Mm-hmm. So if one side gets 10% heavier than the other, it's time to take some money from the winning side and replace it on the other side.
Yeah.
And keep the balance in force. People don't do that.
No.
Advisors don't. It's too much work.
Mm-hmm.
And you need a way to be able to manage that. And it doesn't happen. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
And I'm talking right now, Helen, about your investment portfolio, not the financial plan. Don't confuse the two because they're different.
I know.
The financial plan is a more general document, and the investment plan is inside that. Mm-hmm. It's part of it. It's a mini plan within a plan.
Yeah. Well, you do the best work, so you and Frida and your team. So thank you very much, and we look forward to your show every weekend.
Well, Helen, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
You enjoy the rest of the weekend.
Thank you. You
Take
too.
care. Bye-bye. Okay, ladies and gentlemen and listeners out there, if you just tuned in, I am certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also registered financial planner, representing Scotia Wealth Management. They could say Scotia Financial Planning, because wealth management is the same, really, as financial planning. It's a way to manage your wealth. It's a blueprint. A financial plan says, this is where I stand right now today. Here's where I want to go. And this is how I'm going to get there. Now, keep that thought in mind as we go to the break. And when we come back, we'll continue to talk about your money and how to keep it. Don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
Statistically, if you take 100 people who start out equal today at the age of 25, by the time they end up at 65, 1 is wealthy, 4 are well-to-do, 5 are still working, 36 are dead, and the rest are dead broke, dependent on family and state. That's over half the people who start at equal at age 25 by the time they end up at 65 are dependent on family and state. And that's a sad state of statistics.
Fred Snyder.
You need a blueprint that says this is where you're at right now, and this is where you want to go, and this is the way to get there.
Fred Snyder.
So isn't it time to get that good, warm, fuzzy feeling because you know exactly where you're at? You know that your investments are going to work for you. You know that you have the right investments inside your financial plan. You're confident about the future because you've covered all the bases. You know exactly how much life insurance you need, and you have the right amount of insurance. You have a financial advisor, such as myself, or somebody that's equally competent that you can check with to determine whether you're on track or not. And whether you're on track or not, you know, I'd like to use the analogy, do you have a GPS?
Fred's got your GPS. Talk to Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. This is It's Your Money on CIL 650. Here once again is Fred Snyder.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, we are back. And joining me is Stu Ferguson, the station director here at CIL. 650.
That's correct.
Okay. And he's going to be my co-host, or
yeah, we
he's
just
going to
decided
interview me
that in
today.
the break.
That was just right, bingo. Okay. And I've been dying to have you on because, Stu, I think you're fabulous. Okay.
Well, Fred, I was just doing some work in my office down the hall, listening to the show, and you said a couple of things, and I thought, you know what? It's time I jumped in with Fred and talked about the kind of things that you and I talk about on the phone on a regular basis.
Yeah, we do a lot of talking.
Yeah, like we talk probably at least once a week. Mm-hmm. You tell me about your successes, and I just wanted the people to know, like there's no better endorsement than to come from the program director. Do you know how many years that we've worked together?
I was just going to say that. You and I go back to C-Fund. Okay.
That's right. 18. We're in our 18th year.
Wow. That's a lot of radio time. That's a lot of talking.
That is a lot of talking. So I wanted to help you,
yeah.
and I wanted to just ask a couple of questions to you, and maybe get more. You started out the show today with, because I write stuff down when I'm listening to your show.
That's what people should be doing.
They should. And you know me, I love inspirational quotes, and I love this line, and I wanted you to give me maybe a little more texture to it by using some examples. Here's the line, and I loved it. I wrote it down as soon as you said it. The best way to predict the future is to create it. I
stole that. I heard it on television this morning. I steal lots of stuff.
So what does that look like? Think of some of your most successful clients, and you have so many, that what does it look like? What does it feel like?
I can remember one time, this is years ago, I worked in Ottawa at the time. I was with a different firm. But I got an appointment with this guy that owned an IGA supermarket. And I was attempting to convince him to put away $500 a month for his financial future. And I couldn't convince him. I'm up in his office. There's a little window. We're looking out the window. He can oversee the whole store from his window. So you can hear the cash registers going and everything else. And I'm sitting there talking to him, and I said, well, why don't we just get this thing going? And he said, well, I want to think about it. I said, okay, let me give you something to think about. First off, you told me that your goal, you're just a manager. You own you don't own it. Your goal is to own one of these places. You want a store. You want your own store, okay? He said, yeah. I said, well, look, how long do you think that'll take? I don't know, maybe 10 years. I want you to visualize yourself sitting in your chair right where you are right now, looking out this window, only instead of working for somebody else, it's your store. You can hear those cash registers going and everything else. He said, sign me up.
On the spot.
I motivated him.
Yeah.
Okay? And really, what he did was get his future going today. He created his future by starting to say, I'm going to put away $500 a month.
Yeah.
I'm going to accumulate that money so I can have a store like this. I remember one time I was referred to a guy by the name of Benny Steck. Now, I don't know if you know that name or not. He's probably passed away by now. He's a former football player, CFL. And he owned a store in Spencerville, Ontario. And I drove through Spencerville on the way to Prescott, which was my hometown at the time, all the time, past that store. And I talked to him, and he was working for the same store. He didn't own it. And he had $100,000 in his bank account. And we talked at great length to try to get him to invest them. He finally did. He used that $100,000 in the long run, not to buy the store there, but to buy one in Ottawa, which is right near my house, and I always shop. He got his future going today. He created his own future by making that investment.
And that connection is so close, but people short circuit on it. We talk about this all the time. They want to succeed. They don't know how, and that's where you've always found the way to do that. You sit down with individuals, and you create it.
It's called, you have to have the goal, number one. You establish the goal. You have to believe you can achieve the goal, and you have to have faith that you will achieve it. Right out of Think and Grow Rich. Burning desire and faith is the pathway to getting your future going today.
Okay, so I'm interviewing Fred Snyder.
Yes.
Now. What's the number one stumbling block for people to find success?
Fear.
Bingo.
False evidence appearing real. Okay? That's the acronym. If you have trouble remembering it,
Here's
just handed me a quote from Gandhi. The enemy is fear. We think it is hate, but it is fear.
There you go.
Who was it, the U.S. president that said, I think it was Roosevelt, he said, we have nothing to fear but fear itself.
That's what stops
Okay.
almost all the people, and there are so many people that are listening to this program right now, and they're almost a bit frustrated because they're so close. They need your help, they want your help, but there's just that little distance between them pulling the trigger and finding it.
They've lost their faith. Okay? They've been defeated, and they didn't get up off the floor. Okay? You run into defeat, you fall down, you get up, and you thank God that you have the ability to fight again.
But it can be a vicious circle, though.
Oh, yeah.
So what sets Fred Snyder apart? I know what it is because we talked about this maybe 3 days ago, and I think it's your burning desire when you come across systems that can help analyze what you do, and you've got that.
I have a system called Morningstar Advisor Workstation.
There you go.
Tough learning curve. Very tough. I spent a great deal of time learning it. I know it inside out right now.
Yeah.
I was going to use it on the show today, but I'm just not fluent enough with it. So I thought I'll just leave it.
I'd rather
Next
you
show.
talk about it.
Yeah. Well,
and say what
so
it does.
would I, because I'm like Donald Trump. I'd rather be kind of off the cuff.
Yeah.
Okay? But this program allows me to take your portfolio, input it into the program, store the information, use that as a benchmark to measure future progress against. It will give me all the statistical information that I can imagine I'd ever want, which is probably too much,
Yeah.
on your particular investment portfolio. It will show me a graph of your investment portfolio performance. It will show me the scatter chart performance, which compares risk and reward. There's called the efficient frontier. I don't want to get too technical.
No, you don't. See, there's where I would say, all
well,
right,
I know.
too technical.
I understand. It's a delicate balance, though,
Yes.
sometimes, okay?
Yes.
But it gives me all the information to be able to analyze that portfolio that you have and be able to say that your portfolio is positive, negative, or neutral.
Yeah.
Okay? You have a portfolio which is neutral, which means it's useless. Okay? You have a portfolio which is negative, which is terrible because you're losing money. Or you have a portfolio which is positive, it's pretty good. Might not be the best, but it's pretty good. I'll be able to rate it that way.
And what if you could see that on a screen right behind you, which is what happens when you visit your office?
Just
Beautiful
like the screen
view.
that I have here, yeah, sure.
You know, you look out at the city, and Fred says, Stu, turn around. I want to show you something.
Yeah, yeah.
And I'm always gobsmacked at what you've come up with.
Well, I learned in I don't want to say the year, it's so long ago, 1964, the first year I was in this business. I worked with a guy by the name of Eddie Morrow. And he was in the process of retiring. He'd had a lot of experience in the business. He said, remember one thing, Fred. A picture is worth 1,000 words. The quickest route to the brain is the eye. I'll never forget that. I learned something from that, okay? And I remember I was down a place called Brockville, and I received a referral to a fellow, and I thought I had this presentation I put together, which was awesome. And I went and I spent maybe 3 hours talking to this guy and his wife, and I didn't do any business, wasn't able to make a sale, had to leave. Another representative, same company, run into the same guy, and sold him, got him as a client.
Mm-hmm.
And he said to me, he said, I'll tell you why you didn't get it. He said, the guy said he really liked you. But he said, you gave him a presentation which was so complicated he didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
And I thought it was terrific. So there's a message there, okay? And there's a guy by the name of Larry Wilson who's a professional sales trainer. I listened to him give a speech one time in Winnipeg. He's a song and dance guy, a real entertainer, real motivational speaker. And he said, people buy from you not so much because they understand what you're selling, but because they feel you understand them.
Excellent.
Okay? These are all the little messages that I've picked up over many, many years in this business. And I think success is all about empathy. Okay?
Agreed.
You have to be able to empathize with the people you're talking to. You have to be able to get into their heads and understand what makes them tick.
Well, this is it. I think it's difficult to empathize if you don't understand them and their situation.
That's correct. So you bring up the word fear.
Yes.
Okay? Napoleon Hill talks about the 6 basic fears in his book. One of the basic fears is old age. We all fear getting old. I know how that feels. Okay? Death. We don't want to die. Nobody does. Okay? Poverty. Loss of love. These are the things that we all fear like the plague. But what do we fear more than anything? It's called criticism. Believe it or not, we're more afraid of criticism than dying. Hence the charge of the Light Brigade. Those guys went up that hill to certain death. They'd rather die than be called a coward. So we're afraid of criticism. So why is criticism or fear of criticism causing you from not developing your financial future?
Or phoning this radio program, or phoning Frida.
Right on. That's an obstacle. Someone once said to me that the definition of a problem situation is this. Every problem situation involves an objective, where you stand right now, and an obstacle. The problem situation is the obstacle. So to solve a problem, you got to find out how to get rid of the obstacle. In this case, fear is the obstacle. So we are afraid of failure because we'll be criticized. I don't fear failure. I used to fear. I know what it feels like. But I don't fear failure at this point. I just got it out of the way. I learned how to get around it. I learned that I can climb almost any mountain if I try hard enough. I learned that I can work harder than most people. And I thank God that I'm able to do that. I find I'm more motivated than most people. And I love to do what I'm doing. It doesn't work when you like it. I got up this morning, I couldn't wait to get out here to do this show. Can you hear it in my voice?
I could, from the first word.
Yeah, okay. So the bottom line is that you need to sit, and I hate to keep going over it and over it and over it, but you need goals. Zig Ziglar used to say, and I love the words, are you a meaningful specific or a wandering generality? Okay? Think about that. Meaningful specific, you have goals. You know why you got up. I got on a bus one time in Florida on a tour thing, and the bus driver came on, and we'd been sitting there for half an hour waiting for him. He got on the bus, he was all bubbly and enthusiastic, and he said, "Come on, you guys, wake up. Y'all look bored." Well, we've been sitting here for half an hour waiting for you. He said, "Some people get up out of bed in the morning and they look forward to getting back to bed at night. That's their only goal." Okay? Never forgot that. Because we are goal directed. If you take, Stu, if you take the word motivation, it's made up of 2 words, motive and action. So what is your motive? Your raison d'etre. What is your motive for getting up out of bed in the morning? If you don't have one, you might just well stay in bed. Okay? What is your short-term motives and what are your long-term motives? How well defined are they? Are they crystal clear? I spent a great deal of money quite a few years ago on this one too. Took a course put on by a firm called Success Motivation Institute. Paul J. Meyer was the president. I paid $600 for a bunch of tapes that would probably cost you $5,000 today. I used to listen to them all the time. But this is what I remember out of that course. And ladies and gentlemen, you should write this down, because here's a formula for success. And when I talk about success, I'm not just talking about monetary success. So here's the areas of your life that you need success in. Let's put financial first. It's not necessarily first, but let's just see now we're talking about it. Financial is number one. Number two is social. Financial, social, health, spiritual, and mental. 5 of them. Now you need to have goals in all 5 areas. If your only goal is to become wealthy, and you're obsessed about it to the point that your marriage suffers, your family life suffers and all that, you're a failure. If your health suffers, you're a failure. You got to have goals in all of those areas, every single one of them. So what do? You start out this way. You crystallize your thinking. That's step 1 in any of these 5 areas. Crystallize your thinking. What is it exactly that I want to achieve? It's crystal clear. It's not fuzzy. Rich isn't good enough. You got to be specific. Losing 30 pounds. Not bad. That's pretty specific. But think about all the good health that comes with losing 30 pounds and all the other benefits. Okay? Mental. So crystallize your thinking. Number 2 is develop written plans and deadlines. So number 2 is the plan. If we're talking about money, that's the financial plan. If it's health, what is your health plan? Okay, so that's number 2. Number 3 is to kindle desire. Now that comes directly from Napoleon Hill. Paul Meyer probably stole that from Napoleon. Because kindle desire, that's the burning desire that Hill talks about. Kindle, fire. How do you kindle desire? You visualize yourself having already achieved what you want to achieve. That's the senses. I mean, if you're hungry, just imagine a sizzling T-bone steak on the plate in front of you. You can hear it sizzling, smothered in onions and mushrooms. Mashed potatoes on the side, melting butter. I mean, I could go on. I'm not going to. I think you get the picture, because that's a picture. Okay? So you kindle desire. You got to want to. And you got to want to enough. And the next one is to develop confidence. You have to believe you can. That comes from Napoleon Hill, too. That's the faith. The goal has to be believable. So you're well on the way if you've covered these 4 steps. But there's one final step. You have the iron-willed determination to follow through on your goal, regardless of circumstances, criticism, or what other people say, think, or do. Now there's the criticism from Napoleon Hill's book as well. Okay? This stuff has been around for years, since the mid-30s. Napoleon Hill was a fantastic guy. Napoleon Hill had a son named Blair. Blair was born with no ears. And when Blair was lying in his crib, Napoleon Hill stood over him and said, "No son of mine is going to be deaf and dumb. He's going to hear and he's going to talk." And that became his goal. And he believed he could. At the end of the day, the son Blair became the #1 company selling hearing aids in the United States. And he could talk and hear. He achieved that goal because he believed he could. And the goal was well spelled out. So, again, quick review. Crystallize your thinking. Develop written plans and deadlines. Kindle desire. Build confidence. Have the iron-willed determination to pursue your goal regardless of circumstances, criticism, or what other people say, think, or do. Now you're out there, you're listening to the show. What do you think? You need to make a contribution to this show. Okay? I don't see those phones ringing. I can't believe it. I'm offering all kinds of free stuff.
Well, that's because they've been mesmerized.
Oh, I don't think so.
Because I have.
The bottom line is, I don't know, maybe I should have become a motivational speaker or something. I love this stuff.
Yeah.
Because what makes people tick. What are they doing with ISIS right now? You hear about the drugs they got these guys on? They got some kind of a drug that these guys are taking that eliminates fear. Wouldn't it be nice if you take a drug and this fear we're talking about just goes away? Problem is you become addicted to it. You can't get any sleep. Apparently you don't need sleep for at least 2 or 3 days.
Well, I can see Dwayne getting ready to take a call. So, Fred, I'm going to step out and let you continue and kind of summarize for the listeners my thoughts on what could be holding them back from making the call. I think it's understandable. You mentioned fear and that public speaking, and people can be fearful of calling the radio program. When I hear someone call, I'm thinking, wow, I'm impressed. You know, it's tough to phone because, you know, the guy on the radio he just sounds like he knows so much. I just don't want to be in a position where I could potentially maybe look like I don't know what I'm doing.
Stu, you've seen me do radio shows for years.
So 18.
Have I ever embarrassed anybody?
Never once.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is it is understandable. I think it's wonderful when people contribute. The caller earlier in the show who said, I wrote his comments down too. You asked him how he was feeling, and he said, well, he had more money than he knew what to do with.
Yeah.
So my thought was, and the question that I would ask him is, what does that feel like? That must feel
question.
pretty
Yeah,
cool,
yeah.
you know. So as I'm going to let you continue with callers, and again, as I leave the studio, give the audience the endorsement that you know, when you work together with someone as long as I have with you, if the message is ringing true, and I can't imagine how it would not from what I've just heard. Call Frida at the office, set up the appointment, and get downtown into your office, look out that beautiful view that you have there, and sit down with Fred Snyder and say, and Fred's going to say, turn around, I want to show you something on the screen.
That's a good one.
And it's
let me show you on the screen
your future.
How to get your future going today, or let me show you on the screen how to create your future before you get there.
Yeah.
Okay. And you know, and again, Stu, you know, we can finish off on this note. Imagine if you're a financial failure. See yourself 20 years from now. See yourself in retirement flat broke. What's that feel like? Or see yourself in retirement filthy wealthy like Scrooge McDuck. How does that feel?
Exactly.
Okay? It's easy to see that, okay? So, Stu, thank you very much. Appreciate you being
Fred,
here.
My pleasure.
Take care.
Long time in coming, this chat.
Okay.
And the type of people that walk through your office, you mentioned 4 or 5 people you see, these are successful people.
Yeah.
And maybe we retouch on the 3 types of individuals so
yes.
people can better relate to, you know, where they fit out there as they're listening to this program.
Thanks, Stu. Take care.
Fred.
Let's talk to Tracy from Vancouver. Tracy, welcome to the program.
Good morning, Fred. I was also going to say good morning to Stu. What a wonderful program manager Sea Isle has. He sounds very genuine and very...
Stu is just a great guy.
Down to earth and everything, yeah. First of all, I would like to say that a mountain climber doesn't just climb the mountain. He has to start out by getting little increment of climbing. And I think sometimes we say, I want to save $1 million. And it's so overwhelming that we just don't do it. But if you say, hey, I want to get $100 in by the end of the year, that's more achievable. So I think that we need to encourage young people to have little small goals of how much money they're going to save.
Well, that's how, Tracy, that's how you develop confidence. It's easy to save $10 a day,
right,
rather than $300 a month, as an example.
Yes. I wanted to say that I remember my mother was a bank manager, or credit union manager, and monthly she took all 4 of us kids and sat them down at the table and pulled out all the bills and said, this is why you guys can't have a raise, is because there's the medical, there's the this. She went through all the bills and gave us a good idea rather than just, no, we don't have the money. We were taught to understand how finance works. So when we moved to Canada, my dad got a job, and every time he got a raise, he put half, well, between my mother and my dad, they put half of the raise away. They didn't just add it into their everyday living expense. They put it away.
Well, that's what people need to do.
Yeah, I mean, and so, of course, when they passed away, they had no bills, they had no anything. So, I mean, they had money to leave to each of their kids, which was nice. Now, my question for you, is there, I'm in the process of kind of updating my will. I'm going to be going to see Tim. But the percentage that I give to charity offset taxes, and how much, this is in my final will after I'm deceased, and so that I can give the rest to my my offspring. Is there some way of do you give 50% of your estate to charity, thus it will offset the taxes you have to pay? Or how does that work? Is there a certain percentage that will offset the taxes, I guess?
There's ways, Tracy. There are ways within your estate to arrange your affairs so you don't pay any tax at all.
Okay.
Through charitable giving.
Okay.
This is something you need to talk to myself about if you're concerned about how much tax your estate pays.
Right, because you don't know how much money you're going to have when you die.
That's correct.
So I'm kind of trying to figure out, I'd like to give a nice amount to a particular charity, but I don't know the percentage.
Well, when you talk to, when you talk to Tim, you can start talking about that, or you can come and see me and we can talk about it further.
Okay, great,
But there are procedures, there are ways that you can completely eliminate tax on your final tax return.
Okay, that's what I needed to find out.
Tracy, I'm getting frantic signals from the control room here.
Okay, time for a break.
We're 3 minutes past the break line, so Tracy, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Bye.
You enjoy the weekend. Take care.
Yeah, I will.
Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
Okay, so ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go to the break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about your money and how to keep it. Don't go away. So you got to start thinking about how you're spending your money.
Fred Snyder.
If you can reduce the amount of tax you pay, that means that you get a tax refund. So you get a tax refund means you've really overpaid your taxes. And if you overpay your taxes, what you've really done is loan money to the government. So rule number 1 of my 46 ways to ease the tax bite is don't lend your money to the government.
Fred Snyder.
So pay your taxes. We're not talking about not paying your taxes. We're talking about legal ways to reduce the taxes you pay. Not avoid them, to reduce the taxes you pay so that you can have more money to save and invest so that you can achieve your financial goals sooner. And if you're already there, stay there longer. Because once you get there, it's your obligation to stay there.
Fred Snyder.
If you have a financial plan and you're somewhere in the middle and you're wondering what tweaks that you should make in that plan to make it what you really want it to be, time to make a phone call. Or if maybe you're just getting started out and you want to get a starter plan, maybe it's time to talk to somebody like myself and get yourself on the right track.
Fred Snyder.
I think that everybody needs to go and make an appointment to see Fred.
Talk to Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. Welcome back to It's Your Money on CIL 650. If you have a question for Fred, call 604-280-0650. Now, back to Fred.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, listeners out there, we are back. And we're talking, when we went to the break, we were talking about the financial plan. We're talking about all the ways that you can save money and what you need to do. We talked a lot about the subject of motivation with Stu Ferguson. And I want to really sum all that up once again, okay? Just in summary, crystallize your thinking, develop written plans and deadlines, kindle desire, develop confidence, follow through on your plan regardless of circumstances, criticism, or what other people say, think, or do. From Success Motivation Institute, compliments of Paul J. Meyer. Learned that many, many years ago, have followed that philosophy. Most of that philosophy comes from Napoleon Hill's book, so you want to go straight to the source. Get the book. Napoleon Hill codified. He put the success secrets of all the most successful people in the mid-30s into a book, Think and Grow Rich. And they're all appropriate today. Nothing has really changed. You know, the story of Henry Ford is in there and the mastermind and all that. It's still out there. Everybody should have a mastermind. I have a group called My Mastermind, and I've selected 4 people that I turn to for advice. There's other people I turn to advice, but they're not part of the mastermind group. And I don't really need all that because I got Google. Google's the mastermind, okay? So if you don't have a computer and you don't know how to use it, you're selling yourself short, unbelievably short. You don't have to carry tons of useless information around in your head if you can access it. I can sit here at my desk, my computer in front of me. You see me on the video playback. I can visit almost any library in the world without getting off of this chair right now and gather tons of information. Now, I've had Philomena on the line for a long time. Philomena from New West. I'm going to go to take that call. Philomena, thanks for being patient.
Oh, you're welcome.
So you're on the air, so what's your question?
Yeah, my question is, I am a person that has suffered addiction in my life, so I'm heavily in debt. Well, not heavily in debt, but I'm a person who, let's see, I have absolutely nothing in savings. I guess I don't know about money.
Mm-hmm.
I guess I don't know how to save money, but it's I'm on disability, and I'm in money tree, borrowing loans, and struggling to pay them back. And I'm just wondering, how do I get motivated to earn money?
Motivated to earn money?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, it starts out, Philomena, by, on a piece of paper, writing down your hopes, your plans, your dreams, and your ambitions, number one. Then converting those into specific goals, like we already talked about.
Okay.
And then talking to somebody like me and asking me to help you make those goals realistic, depending on your circumstances.
Right.
Okay? You need a better job. I don't know anything about your circumstances except for what you've already told me, but how much money do you need to live every month?
How much money, sorry?
How much money do you need to live every month? What's your monthly budget total?
The problem is, if I give up the cigarettes, I'd be fine. You know how expensive that is, right?
Yes,
That's ridiculous.
it's
and
$600 a
health
month
and
before
everything.
tax.
So probably like $1,000.
But if you can live on $1,000 a month, including cigarettes, or out? Are cigarettes in there or out?
They gotta go.
Are cigarettes part of the $1,000?
Oh, yeah, I don't know, because that's the thing. My mom helps me out with money with cigarettes, and I fail to understand how expensive my spending is.
How old are you?
I'm 40.
You're 40, and you're living at home?
I'm living at my mom's. Yeah.
And you're disabled?
Well, mental illness. Yep.
Okay. How would I advise somebody living at home that's impaired mentally, who needs? So you're obviously not paying room and board because you can live on $1,000. Cigarettes are in there. That's probably $1,200 or $1,300.
I'm paying rent. I'm paying rent. I'm paying for food. But I also go to charities to eat and stuff like that. And I just want to get out of that habit, because you know how many people fall into that trap with addiction. They end up even worse off than they are if they don't figure out their finances.
Well, what you really need to do is develop a plan to get a proper job.
Yeah.
That's what If I were you, I would spend a great deal of time on the internet. I would look up jobs, or words to that effect, self-employed jobs on the internet. Try to find an idea. Try to find something that everybody needs and doesn't have that you can provide.
Okay.
You can create a business
Okay.
out of that. And, you could develop an internet business of some kind or another. You don't need very much money to do that. You just need a laptop computer.
Oh.
Your number one problem is lack of a job. It's not lack of a plan. It's not lack of money. It's lack of a job.
Yeah, I tried to get a consolidation loan. That's exactly what they told me to. Is to they don't have enough income to even get a consolidation loan.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
Yeah.
And it's time to get there.
Yeah.
It really is. It's time to get a job. So you got to make a plan on how to get a job, or how to get an occupation, or how to get a career. Maybe is a better word.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily a job. I don't believe in jobs. I like careers. So what are you going to do to generate income for yourself for the rest of your life?
I don't know.
Make that a project and enjoy the search. Go on the internet, look it up, cut and paste, make a document called My Job Plan or My Career Plan.
I've had so many jobs. I've been hired so many times. I get through so many interviews and I can't hold the job. And I don't understand why. Is it because I think I should be more deserving of so much more money than the minimum wage? I don't know.
Well, you know something? I often do a lot of work and I don't even get paid for it, and I like it. I mean, I never think about what I'm going to get paid for what I do. I just do it because I like it. And the money kind of looks after itself.
Well, it reminds me of musicianship. I'm a musician.
Well, if you're well, then why not?
Yeah.
Teach people what instrument?
A guitar and singing.
Okay. Well, teach people how to do that.
Okay.
God, I'd love to do that. Maybe you can teach me.
It's quite simple.
You see, the question becomes then, how can I find a lot of people that want to learn to play the guitar? And that's called the internet. You need to put a web page up. I will teach you how to play the guitar, and start small. Get a reputation and grow from there. You see how that conversation evolved? You have a definite skill that you can probably turn into a career.
Yeah.
And you have to put yourself in a position where you don't get discouraged. If success doesn't come as quickly as you want, don't get discouraged. I can give you thousands of issues of that. Elvis Presley was told he was doomed to be a truck driver for the rest of his life. He didn't believe that. You see what happened there.
Well,
Marilyn Monroe was told that she would never succeed. She better go back to being a maid.
Yeah, Corey Hart too.
So
yeah,
you know,
he didn't accept no for an answer, and I guess that's probably the thing. And you know, with the expense of cigarettes, people who don't smoke don't really care because they just think it's a dirty habit and get rid of it, and you know it's filthy, and it is, but it's also something that's.
Philomena, I'm going to leave you with one thought.
Okay.
Download the book Think and Grow Rich, and study it, because what you're looking for is in that book.
Okay.
Call Frida, and we'll give you the workbook that comes along with it. But you don't even have to pay for that book. It's a free download if you got a computer.
Okay, and what is that? Where do I?
Called Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. Okay.
Just read the book. Study it. Don't just read it. Study it.
Okay.
Okay?
All right. I'm going to just exactly do that, and I hope I get there. Thank you very much.
Well, if you do what I just said, I guarantee you'll get there.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking my call.
Okay, appreciate it. You take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Let's talk to Maria from Vancouver. Maria, welcome to the program.
Hi, good morning. How are you?
Oh, I'm in great shape today. Thank you.
Well, what I was going to talk about just touched on the young lady, the age group, because you're always saying how there's a lot of people listening to the program, and yet they don't call.
Yes.
Well, I was wondering, could it be that they don't call because they've bought their first home and they have this huge mortgage on their shoulders, and they just don't think they can get a financial plan because they don't really have a lot of money left over? Should they get a financial plan anyways? Answer
to your question, pure and simple, is yes.
The answer is yes?
Sure.
Well, I hope there's a lot of listeners out there listening to you, because the way it's going today with million-dollar houses, I can just imagine how scared some of these young buyers are right now.
Yeah. I just gave that lady a financial plan on the air.
Yes, I heard.
Read the book, Think and Grow Rich. That's a plan.
Well, I hope all the listeners out there that are in that position call you or come and see you, because it probably sets them on the right path for the rest of their life.
You see, Maria, I like you.
Thank you.
You call in a lot. You stand for a lot, and I like you. So I'm going to say this to you. The book Think and Grow Rich is the secret to everything. Motivation is the secret to everything. Think and Grow Rich is the secret to motivation. So if you're motivated enough, And that's the key word. Motivated enough, you can't fail. Okay?
Yes, and
you got to be. You have been successful in not. Okay, you've gone back and forth.
Yes.
I'm suggesting to you, in the end, you won't fail.
I agree with you because, like you said earlier, fear. If you can just get that fear out of your life, everything is possible. Little steps at a time. Don't try to go to the top step, but one step at a time up to the top.
One foot after the other. The longest journey begins with the first step.
Yes, very true.
I love the cliches. Walk a mile and you can see further.
Very true. Okay. Very true. Well, like I always say, keep up the good work. I enjoy your program. I listen every week. I wait for your program to be over before I do anything else. So take care. Have a great day.
Maria, you take care too, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate your call.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Maria's line is now open. So once again, ladies and gentlemen and listeners, if you just tuned in, and I hope you did, I'm certified financial planner Fred Snyder, also registered financial planner representing Scotia Wealth Management. That's representing financial planning by a very large Canadian firm. Okay? We're in the business of helping you create your financial future. I'm going to say that again, helping you create your financial future. Now you're out there right now. You're listening to the show. You're absorbing all this information as we talk about it. Maybe you're taking notes. I hope you are. But you're listening to the show, and I want you to think that I am now talking to probably 4,000, maybe 5,000 people. I shouldn't say that because it scares me when I say it. Okay? All I see is a microphone in front of me. But 4,000 or 5,000 people listen to this show. Okay. Now, the vast majority of you listeners that are out there right now do not have any form of a written financial plan. Maybe you think you do, but you don't. Okay? Some people think, well, if I got some shares in the company I work for, that's a financial plan. Or I own some General Motors stock, that's a financial plan. Or I have 2 or 3 mutual funds, that's a financial plan. I have a whole life insurance policy, that's a financial plan. Ladies and gentlemen, those are naked products. They are not a financial plan. Those products can be part of a financial plan, which is a master document. It's like a box that you put things into, but they're not a financial plan. Having a stockbroker is not having a financial advisor. That's a stock advisor. You got to deal with somebody who's got some initials after the name, CFP, RFP, CLU, etc. These are proper official designations. So what are the qualifications of your financial advisor? How qualified is the person that you're taking advice from? You should know that. Is that person trustworthy? I measure the people that I deal with. Anytime I talk to a potential client, or anytime I talk to a potential advisor that might be in the process of hiring, anytime I talk to anybody, I ask myself 3 questions. Does this person care? Are they competent? And do they have high character, which means they're honest? Care, competency, and character. 3 C's. Think about that for a minute, because it works. If you're wondering about whether Donald Trump will become the next president of the United States, does he care about the people? Not sure. He hasn't gotten that across. He may, but I'm not so sure. That's what he's got to sell. Is he competent? He's probably pretty competent. Strong competency. Give him 10 out of 10 on competency. Character, is he honest? He probably may be. I don't know how he could raise all the money that he has if he was dishonest. He'd be in jail. So he's probably honest. But care? Question mark. Hillary Clinton, does she care? Is she competent? Does she have high character? Her character is always in question. That's the weak spot. Okay? If she was high character, like Biden, if Biden had run, Biden probably would have won hands down. Because does he care? I think he cares. I think He's competent, and I think he's got very high character. Okay? That's probably why he didn't run. So that yardstick you can apply to me or anybody else you know, and it's very, very effective. And I take no credit for it. It was General Kashvili who was addressing the graduating act from a class of Annapolis about 20 years ago. That was part of his speech. I wrote that down. I was so impressed. He said, if you lack any of the 3C, your people will leave you. They're the quality of leadership. That's what we're talking about. That and much, much more on this show. We're talking about how you can do better financially. Now, why in the world would anybody not want to do better financially? If you could get an extra 2% on your money by taking less risk, why wouldn't you want to do that? If you could end up with multi-millions of dollars while you're still young enough to enjoy it, why wouldn't you want to do that? If you had a wealth management program that will solve all your financial problems, why wouldn't you want to do that? Visualize yourself, as we said earlier. Sit back in your chair with your notepad and visualize yourself at or near retirement. And you have a small fortune. And you know you're able to retire in the style and comfort that you really want to. You know that you're able to do that. How does that feel? It's got to feel pretty good. You can go to bed at night and say, I can sleep really well because I don't have to worry about money. I got lots of it. I know that my kids are looked after. I know my spouse is looked after. I have a proper life insurance program in place in case something happens to me. I've covered all the bases. And I have a financial advisor to help guide me. So I have a plan, I have an advisor to help me make the plan work, and I have the right products inside my plan. That's 3 Ps: plan, products, and planning. Okay? I have all that. Plus I have no worries. Now, think about how you would feel if that's you. I think you'd feel pretty good. What does it look like? Is there any smell to it? Probably not. Okay. How does it feel? Put your hands in your pocket and they're just full of cash. Not flies. Cash. How's that feel? What does it feel like to be rich? What does it feel like, on the other hand, to be poor? Isn't life all about how you feel? You get up in the morning and you feel crappy. You want to keep feeling crappy all day long? How do you change the way you feel? Someone once said, you want to be enthusiastic, act enthusiastic. You want to feel better? Pretend you feel better, and then automatically you will start to feel better. Okay? Because it's in your subconscious mind. So how do you program your subconscious mind? By giving your subconscious mind affirmations. I said it before and I'll say it again. Muhammad Ali used to stand up, beat on his chest and say, I am the greatest. Over and over and over again. And he believed it. And guess what? He was. And he became that way. Imagine you get up in the morning and you say, you know something? I'm a loser. Look in the mirror and say, I'm a loser. Over and over again. Guess what? You'll become a loser. But you get up in the morning, look in the mirror and say, I'm a winner. I like me. I like what I do. I like my job. I like my family. I'm thankful for everything I have. Do that every day and watch how you feel. I hope I'm making sense. I hope that the words that I'm speaking sink in, because really, I believe it. I've studied the book Think and Grow Rich from cover to cover. I know everything that's in there, and it's a fabulous book. And if you don't have it, I suggest you get it. My brother-in-law one time was having a rough time with his women and his life and all the rest of it. So I bought the book Think and Grow Rich, and I gave it to him. I said, here, read this. He took it home and he read it. And he called me up and said, my God, why didn't somebody tell me about this before? I wouldn't have had all those problems if I'd have read this book. True story. That's what he said. Anyway, a couple months went by. And he was starting to have problems again. And I said, Michael, read the book again. He said, I can't. I gave it away. Now, that's the definition of a loser, for sure. Okay? A definite loser. Like, are you a winner or a loser? Are you motivated or demotivated? Are you fearful or courageous? The difference between fear and courage is knowledge. Hence, false evidence appearing real, and the key word in there is appearing, because false evidence isn't necessarily real. Okay? False evidence appearing real. So, get rid of your fears. And the best way to do that is called knowledge. So listening to this show is one way to enhance that. I had a lady in my office last week who's not in this business, but she's a CFP, professional designation. She decided at one time that she might decide to get into this business, but decided against it. But she needed the designation to help her with her own money. So she went out, she got the CFP designation. You don't have to be in the business to get professional designations. You can take the Canadian Securities course. You can take the Mutual Fund Dealers Association course, the MFDA course. You can go to night school at all the various colleges around town and take courses on money. Listen to this radio show. Read lots of books. Call Frida. She'll give you a list of my 18 most popular books. I can pull all those up if anybody ever wants to see them, but if you want to get a list of suggested reading material, that would be a good idea. There's so much that you can do to enhance your financial future, but I think it all revolves. The hub is knowledge. Okay? And you don't have to carry it all in your head. You just have to know where to get it. The mastermind. Okay? So if you wanted information, legal information, where would you get it? If you wanted accounting information, where would you get it? If you wanted information about financial planning, where would you get it? Okay. So it's about education and it's about information. And it's about kind of tying it all together and having a plan, having a proper plan ties it all together. So again, 604-280-0650. That's the number to call. 604-280-0650. Station call letters is 0650, or 650, I should say. Put a 0 in front of it, and 280 in front of that, and you got the number. Very easy. So 280-0650. If you're calling long distance, it's 1-877-280-0650. If you haven't written those numbers down by now, you should have. Write them down. Now you can log on, www.cal650.com. And I know, because they tell me all the time, people come in to see me, and they say, I would have called the show, but I'm shy. So if that's you, no problem. Call Frida. She's down at the office right now, just for you. Area code 604-737-3512. Long distance, 1-800-661-1495. Remember, once again, we're talking about your money and how to keep it. How to keep it is the key phrase. And we fail miserably when it comes to keeping our money. Remember, it's not your money if you don't keep it. It's not your money if you spend it. It becomes somebody else's money once you spend it. You transfer it to somebody else. And if you spend more than what you earn, which is what a lot of people do, you end up with great big balances on your credit cards, your lines of credit all maxed out and so on, because you got to borrow to cover the deficit. I have to go to the break, and when we come back, we'll continue talking about your money and how to keep it. Don't go away.
Fred Snyder.
I want you to imagine a person who is uptight, always worried, has high blood pressure, looking at their bank statement every time they turn around, and it's always red. Okay? They're spending more than they earn. They can't seem to get out of the hole. They're always telling people, I'm catching up, I'm trying to catch up. So they're always behind the 8 ball. And life isn't pretty. And they're not happy and they're frustrated. And they're not even fun to be around, those kind of people. There's a black cloud hanging over their head. Visualize that, because there's lots of people out there right now that are in that boat.
Fred Snyder.
And you have to ask yourself the question right now, what would happen if that happened to me? Because here I am. I'm sitting out here. I don't have a written financial plan. I haven't taken the time to sit down and think about my goals, the things that I really want to accomplish. I'm like a ship without a rudder. I have no direction. I'm procrastinating because I don't know what to do. And I'm still not doing anything about it. So instead of being proactive as I should be, I'm being reactive. I'm waiting for the bad stuff to happen and not controlling my destiny. If that's you, it's time to make a phone call.
Call Fred. Talk to Fred. Listen to Fred. Fred Snyder. Sunday mornings 9 to 11 on CIL 650. This is CISL Vancouver. Smooth and easy. CIL 650. You're listening to It's Your Money on CIL 650. Once again, here is Fred Snyder.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen and listeners out there, we're back. This is the final half hour of the show. And again, I remind you, we share this show with you, our listeners, and this show is live. Didn't get a lot of calls today. I don't know why. We should have had a lot of calls. We had Stu Ferguson in here, as station director, and we were talking about the subject of motivation, Think and Grow Rich. And I don't think I can spend too much time on the subject of motivation, because I think the major reason why people fail financially is motivation. Sure, it's lack of knowledge, it's all these other things, but if you're motivated, you're going to get all the other things that we're talking about. Lack of knowledge is a symptom of lack of motivation. So it starts, you got to want to, and you got to want to enough. That's called burning desire. And Napoleon Hill in his book talks about how you kindle desire. So if you start out and say, well, I'm obsessed about doing better financially, and I really want to, and the key to that is to get more financial education. The key to that is to get a financial plan. The key to that is to understand more about money, and to understand that that's a lifelong process called continuing education. If you understand all that, then it's important for you to implement that and get on the right track to start. And I hate the cliches, but I'll repeat them anyway. The longest journey begins with the first step. And that first step is that phone call. Are you afraid to take that journey? Maybe that's why you don't want to make the phone call. I don't want to start that trip because I might not like it. You ever gone on a trip you thought you weren't going to like and then you really enjoyed it? Napoleon Hill once said, the longest journey begins with the first step. Walk a mile and you can see further. Okay? Who was the guy, the defense minister in the United States, that used to say, we don't know what we don't know? Okay? So we're getting into strange territory maybe. We don't know what we don't know. Well, there's nothing I'm talking about, and there's nothing that I ever talk about that people should be afraid of. 604-280-0650. Long distance, 1-877-280-0650. Log on, www.CIL650.com. Free to down at the office. Right now, if you're shy, reluctant to talk on the air, 604-737-3512. 604-737-3512. Your long distance, 1-800-661-1495. So again, talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. So if you come in to see me for a second opinion on your investment portfolio, this is what I need. I need a copy of your investment statement. I can't do a proper analysis of your situation if I don't have that statement. I have to know what the investments are. I have to know the amount that's invested in each of the holdings that you have, so we can punch it into the software, and then the software will take over and automatically analyze it. It will say, if you had owned this portfolio for the last 10 years, this is how it would have performed. Maybe you only owned it for 2 years, but you can see what the track record is. That's what you need to know. it will say the portfolio has a standard deviation of 4 or maybe 30. The higher the number, the more risky it is. 1 is virtually no risk, and 10 is moderate risk. So if the number is 4 or 5, it's somewhere between low and moderate risk. If it's over 10, the risk is getting high. 11 or 12 isn't too bad, but if it's 40, I saw one the other day, 40 was the risk, that's extremely high. But what was sad and really difficult to understand is the client didn't know that. I said, you know, you have a very risky portfolio. Now, people say, well, what is standard deviation? I sometimes hate to use these terms. We'll try to keep it simple. Standard deviation is how volatile is the portfolio? How much does it fluctuate? The average is called the mean. So if you take your portfolio and the average rate of return over the last 10 years is 7, and standard deviation is 10, it means it deviates from the mean or the average by 3. It's an oversimplification, but that's really what that means. Volatile is it's like a yo-yo in the hands of a person climbing stairs. The longer the string on the yo-yo, the more the standard deviation. Okay? And that's how risk is measured in the investment business. We're not talking about the risk of losing all your money. We're talking about the risk of buying high and being scared and selling low and creating a real loss. When you should be doing just the opposite. You should be buying low and selling high. If you're going to do any buying and selling, that's what you do. That's what day traders try to do, and some of them do pretty well. 604-280-0650, long distance 1-877-280-0650. Frida down at the office at 604-737-3512, long distance 1-800-661-1495. So what are some of the principles of success? Once again, can't say it too many times, it's about goals. So when was the last time you sat down with your partner with a pencil, a pad, and started defining or attempting to define where you want to go? And I deliberately didn't say where you want to go financially. I said where you want to go. Where is it you want to go financially? Where is it you want to go socially? Where is it you want to go as far as your family life is concerned? How about your health, your mental and spiritual well-being? Where do you want to go? What do you want to become? I'm serious about this, okay? Where do you want to go in all those areas? I see this all the time. You know, people are sad. People are depressed most of the time because they don't have goals. Or they're depressed most of the time because they were pursuing a goal, one single goal, and they failed. And they're depressed because they don't know how to get started again. Maria's called in several times in the past, and I know that she had some big disappointments. But there's a lady that is not going to fail. Because she knows when she's knocked down, she knows how to get back up. And she knows how to learn from some of the things that have happened in the past. Okay? Someone once said, if you can't learn from the past, you're bound to repeat it. So you forget your mistakes. It's like if you're playing darts. You throw a dart, get a bullseye. You want to remember that one in your mental mind. You throw another one and you miss by a mile, forget that one. Okay? Maybe kind of learn from it, but don't try to remember. Try to remember this every time you score. Try to embed that into your subconscious mind. And that applies to anything, not just darts. Hitting a golf ball, same thing. You hit a good shot. The trick is to hit another good shot by repeating what you did the first time. That's what it's all about. I notice Dwayne in the control room, he's always practicing his twisting. I think he's playing golf. I think he's practicing his flexibility. I'll bet you he plays golf, right? No, he doesn't. One time. Well, he's doing something that requires flexibility because I see him stretching all the time. Maybe he's a baseball player. But that's the secret. You got to want to. You got to kindle desire, and you got to have a burning desire to get there. And they don't. What we're talking about here right now, they don't teach us this in school. They don't. So I want you to kind of sit back. You got that pad of paper in front of you. And I want you to write on that pad of paper, from now on, I'm going to save at least 10 cents out of every dollar that I earn. Minimum 10 cents. I mean, I'm not telling you not to save 20, but minimum of 10. I'm going to take the 90 cents that's left, and I'm going to use that to budget to pay everybody else. Now, when my bank account gets too fat because of all these dimes that I'm saving, then I'm going to talk to a financial advisor about getting a proper investment plan because I got too much money in the bank. So if you do this, you're going to end up someday with too much money in the bank. So what is too much money in the bank? How much money should you have in the bank? Well, maybe you're earmarked to buy something, so it's okay to have extra money in there if that's destined to buy something in particular. But generally speaking, you should have enough money in the bank to cover your expenses for at least 6 months. Some people say 3, I say 6. So if your monthly living, now you see, in order to figure that out, you need to know what your monthly living expenses are. You need to know what your budget is. So if your budget is around $4,000, 6 times 4 is 24. You need about $24,000 in the bank as your cash reserve. Now, you can figure it out for yourself. Maybe you got a really good line of credit. Maybe you want to use a line of credit instead of cash. But really, that's what starts out. So from now on, you say to yourself, 10 cents out of every dollar goes into my bank account. Then I budget to pay everything else. And when I get too much money in the bank, I'm going to take the excess and put that into my investment program that I have with Fred Snyder or somebody like him. Makes sense? I think it makes perfect sense. So when you start out with your investment program, you need to determine what your asset allocation is. Asset allocation means, do I have 100% of my money in equities, 100% of my money in fixed income, or some combination of both? And if it's some combination of both, what's the ratio of fixed income and equities? A balanced program means 50% fixed income and 50% equities. Now, when I look at the equity side, what does that mean? What does the word equity mean? It means ownership. And with the inflation and rising prices that we've had in the last 100 years or so, the value of equity investments grows because the prices are going up. Equity means I own something. What's the equity in your house? That's the piece of your house that you own. So equity, I own a stock, I own a house, I own a business. I've never seen a house drop in value to zero. It may go down in value, it may go up, but it never goes to zero. Business can, you can get into bankruptcy. But generally speaking, ownership investments will increase on average with inflation. By the same token, if we have an inflation period of time, the value of the fixed income investments decline because everything costs more. So you need to determine what that balance is and what should it be. And people don't know. And that's where you need a financial advisor to help you do that. So on the equity side, you need to diversify between mutual funds, stocks, real estate, that kind of thing. On the fixed income side, you need to determine what the mix there is, because you don't put all your money in long-term bonds. Some of your money on the fixed income side goes into long-term bonds, yes, but some into short-term bonds. Some maybe into mortgage funds. So you got to diversify on the fixed income side and the equity side. And you're going to need a financial advisor like myself in order to help you do that. That's what it's all about. Let's talk to Rob from Vancouver Island. Rob, welcome to the program.
Hi, Fred.
Hi, Rob. How you doing?
Good. I was just listening to the show like I do every Sunday.
Thank you.
And I was feeling a little bit guilty about not calling in. There's probably a lot of us out there that listen.
I was trying to make you feel guilty, Rob.
Well, there's a lot of us out there that just listen and we get good information, and for whatever reason we don't call in. And I was thinking about you talking about why people don't call in. And there's probably a lot of people out there like me who maybe don't want to be as involved in the day-to-day running of our stuff. Mm-hmm. Kate and I are really comfortable since we've met with you and you've helped us set a plan, putting our trust in you on how things go. We'll see you once or twice a year, or if there's some major change in finances, we'll sit and talk about it. And other than that, I'm not like my brother or some other people I know who the first thing they do in the morning is get up and look at the market and where things are going. I've got lots of other things in my life, and I sort of put my trust in you and your team to sort of follow the plan we've set out.
Well, I think that's the way to handle it. And I think what you just said is really good advice to most of our listeners. There's no point. You can't do much about the markets. The markets can go up, the markets can go down. If you're watching them all the time, it'll drive you crazy. You need to have a longer term look at things. So if for example, about a year and a half or so ago, energy fell off the cliff. So if you have a portfolio, what you want to do is try to get energy out of your portfolio as much as you can. Those things happen from time to time, so you got to keep an eye on that. But outside of that, I don't think it accomplishes anything to be looking at it every day.
No, and I think sometimes people may think listening to your show that they have to be more involved than they really do. As long as they check in with you on a semi-regular basis and have a good plan up front, things are working well for us. Some periods of time my brother will do better, and others he takes bigger hits. So I don't know how it all works out in the end, but I'm happy with the way it works out for me, and I don't have to be involved every day.
Well, Rob, that's a good point. So what advice would you give our listeners?
I think the big one is trust. I've had other financial advisors over my years, and I think you should feel really comfortable with your financial advisor and sit down and when you do that plan, make sure that it fits you. You talk often about risk and risk reward, and you have to be sort of together on where that's going to go with your investments. And once you do that, and you're very, very good at asking the right questions to help us put together a plan that works for us.
Well, I can't tell you how much I appreciate your comments and your testimonial.
Oh, thank you very much.
So, Rob, you enjoy the rest of the weekend.
You too.
And give us a call anytime. You're most welcome.
Okay, thanks very much.
Take care. Bye for now.
Okay, bye.
Okay, well, that was Rob from Vancouver Island, and that line is now open, and we're down to about 12 minutes before we have to go. It's actually closer to 10. So you're out there, you're listening to the show right now. Ask yourself this question. I'm at or near retirement. That may be a few years down the road. It may be 20 years down the road. But I'm at or near retirement, and I am broke. How's that feel? And if you had your life to live all over again, what would you have done differently? I'll tell you what you would have done. You would have saved 10 cents out of every dollar, like I suggested earlier. And there's no point in saying, I'm going to do it, but not just yet. It's not, the time just isn't right. Because there's only one time to do it, and that's like right now. It's called the power of now. You don't procrastinate. You know, I've used the analogy many, many times. That young lady that called earlier, and she says she smokes. Okay? She can't afford to live, but she found enough money for cigarettes. I want you to think about that for a minute, because I've had people many, many, many times tell me that I know I need to be saving money, but I can't afford to do it just yet. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till I get a raise. I'm going to wait till the baby's born. I'm going to wait till the car's paid off. I'm going to wait till Junior's out of college. Whatever it is, there's always an excuse. And that's all it is. That person could have easily saved 10 cents and budgeted with the rest, the other 90 cents. They didn't. But somehow they find enough money to buy cigarettes. And I've never had anybody ever say to me, you know, I've decided to take up smoking, but I can't afford it just now. I'm going to wait till I can afford it, and then I'm going to start smoking. Never had that happen. These people smoke because they can buy cigarettes regularly as they need them. Now, you know, a package of cigarettes Cost $10. How much is that per cigarette? Think about that for a minute. Okay? And then ask yourself this question. How much money do I have to earn to pay $10 to buy a package of cigarettes? If you're in the top tax bracket, you got to earn $20, pay $10 of tax to have $10 left to buy those cigarettes. That's $20 a day. Because I used to smoke, and most people I knew, pack a day, sometimes more. I quit smoking when I was 30 years ago. Okay, best thing I ever did. I have no desire to smoke now, but I remember when I smoked, I couldn't stop. I should have had a habit of saving money, because if I could save money the same way that I smoked, I'd have a small fortune today. 10 cents out of every dollar, put it away religiously, gets to be a good habit. Good habit is just difficult to break as a bad one. So I want you to think about what it costs you to smoke. And for the lady who called in, she asked for a financial plan. Well, the best financial plan of all is to quit smoking and take the money you now spend on cigarettes and talk to a financial advisor like myself and put the money away for your future. So there's two parts to your plan. Get a job and start saving the money you're now spending on cigarettes. And when you get the job, you'll be healthier because you don't smoke. Now, I'm sure there's lots of smokers out there listening to the show that are madder than hell that I'm telling everybody to quit smoking. Well, quit. I still say it, and I still maintain my position. Don't smoke. Hey, you're better off, if you're going to gamble with your life, gamble with the money and buy lottery tickets instead. Okay? You might just win. And then you can call me up and say, well, I just won the lottery and it's $40 million. I want to invest it with you because I think you make a lot of sense. And if you're listening to the show and you just won the lottery, maybe it's time for you and I to have a conversation before you spend it all. What do most people do when they win the lottery? Well, the first thing they do, they buy everybody in the family a car. They buy their parents a house, or they pay off their parents' mortgage or whatever. They feel real generous because they think they got all kinds of money. And in very short order, they're broke. What should they do? They should invest those millions into a portfolio that generates an income, and the income will be substantial, and they should only spend the income. They can spend that till the cows come home because they get a check for whatever it is, $30,000 or $40,000, we'll say, a month. They get that money, they spend it because they know next month they're going to have another $30,000 or $40,000, the month after that, and so on. They're never going to run out of money. But what do? They cut the tree down. They don't pick the fruit, they cut the tree down. Don't spend the capital. Invest the capital wisely. That's why it's necessary to have a proper financial plan. That's why it's necessary to have a proper investment plan. That's why it's necessary to do the proper asset allocation within the plan. Okay? So that's what we're talking about. When we talk about your money and how to keep it, that's the message. So you've listened to the show, picked up a few ideas, wrote them down. You want to get yourself a financial plan, what you do right now is give Frida a call. You can reach Frida at 737-3512. That's 604-737-3512. If you're long distance, it's 1-800-661-1495. You want to talk to us on the show, we're we still have a few minutes. We can get some more calls in. But again, it's 604-280-0650. Long distance, 877-280-0650. Remind you, once again, we're talking about your money, more importantly about your money and how to keep it. You know, the greatest salesman in the world, Og Mandino, wrote this book. And in there's 10 scrolls. I don't have time to go through the 10 scrolls, but I'm going to start with scroll number 1 because I think it's the most important one of all. So you get up in the morning, or this morning, or whenever you get up, the first thing you say is this: today, I begin a new life. It's a new page. I'm going to do things differently. I've messed a whole lot of stuff up in the past, but today, I'm going to begin a new life. And number 2, I'm going to greet this day with love in my heart. I'm going to love everybody. I'm going to be thankful for everything I have. I listened to the show on the way out here. Today it was religious, and they were talking about thanking God for everything that you have. And we need to be more thankful. We need to be more gracious. The people, your loved ones, your children, your grandchildren, thank God that they exist. And be grateful that they exist. It's as simple as that. This gives you that feeling that you need to overcome depression, lack of money, and all the other things that bother you incredibly. You have an investment portfolio right now, your portfolio, the numbers you looked at and you find it's down, not doing as well as it should have because the markets are down. The markets thought for a while that they were going to increase interest rates in the States. ISIS put the cap on that. So now it looks like they're not going to have that interest rate increase. The market's like that, so the market's made a nice rebound. But the fear of rising interest rates is still out there. It still could happen next year early. It's not a long way off. The government has to increase interest rates. So why does the government increase interest rates? Why not just leave them the way they are? When if the government increases interest rates, they have to spend more money on the money they owe. That's almost like shooting yourself in the foot. But the reason the government has to increase interest rates is they're paranoid about inflation. Okay, the way the government spends money is called fiscal policy. If they spend more than that's the government's budget. In a nutshell, what's their income, what's their expenses? If interest rates go up, their expenses go up because it costs them more for the debt, to service the debt on the money they owe. So you got to think, what is likely to happen in that particular area? Well, if we have unemployment numbers going down, that causes inflation. That's a harbinger of inflation. So the government sees that. They see falling employment numbers, and they get worried about inflation. We better increase interest rates to keep inflation at bay. And if they increase interest rates in the States, guess what? We'll have to increase them here in Canada, or the money will all leave Canada and go to the States. And we'll have an even weaker Canadian dollar. That's what goes on out there. And I'm out of time, so I have to depart. So thanks for listening. Thanks for participating. Same time, same station next week. Bye for now.
If you'd like Fred to review your portfolio, call his office right now at 604-737-3512. That's 604-737-3512.